Hi there, my name is James Lee. First off, I want to say a big thank you to the new community of 5149ers for joining me today. I'm super grateful for all of you guys. Let me know how you feel about the name. Also, a big welcome to new people who may have just stumbled upon this video by chance. I hope you enjoy it. Now, before I dive in, I just want to take a quick moment to remind everybody to subscribe if they haven't already done so. I really appreciate it. It really helps a small independent channel like mine. All right, so today we're going to be discussing the series of incumbent primary losses this year, both on the Democratic and the Republican side, and discuss how this wave of new challengers were able to knock off these incumbents.
Welcome back. A major upset to tell you about tonight. The Associated Press has declared Cori Bush the winner for the Missouri U.S. House District 1.
Projections show Marie Newman has an insurmountable lead. That means Congressman Dan Lipinski is the first House incumbent to lose a primary.
News in Campaign 2020, Jamaal Bowman has been declared the winner over incumbent Congressman Eliot Engel.
Five-term Republican incumbent Congressman Scott Tipton loses to gun-toting first-time candidate Lauren Boebert.
So overall, challengers have successfully primaried and knocked off 7 incumbents this year. Now, this is more of an opinion of mine, but to put it bluntly, many incumbents have been around for a long time and are arrogant and have this sense of entitlement to their seat. But usually incumbents are very, very difficult to knock off because A, they have way more access to money and fundraising, and B, they have more name recognition. The fact is the general population doesn't usually pay a lot of attention to politics, and so when they do cast their vote, they're going to typically vote for whoever they've heard of. But as we all know, 2020 is not a typical year. The times are extremely challenging right now. There's a public health crisis which has resulted in unprecedented economic turmoil, and you also have this incredible amount of social and racial unrest. So this incumbent arrogance and entitlement is now fully on display, fully exposed, and I think the people are starting to realize that their elected officials do not actually represent them. So one by one, they are falling like dominoes. And that's exactly how it's supposed to work. We elect people to represent the policies we believe in and that are important to us. A quick flashback, because I feel like the 2016 election is still one that is misdiagnosed today, especially among the political consultants and the party elites. Now, Hillary Clinton, she didn't lose because she was a woman, and Trump, he didn't win because he stoked racism. All Hillary offered during a time of incredible economic and wealth inequality was basically just woke identity politics. And those policies that she laid out didn't really address any of the problems that everyday Americans were facing. I know this is slightly controversial to say, but simply saying things, simply having slogans like "I'm with her" or "Love hates Trump" without any policy backing, that's just not that important to people who are dealing with poverty and just trying to put food on the table. Now, Donald Trump, despite all of his flaws, the racist rhetoric about banning Muslims, the Hollywood access tapes, everything like that, he won because he ran on jobs, he ran on healthcare, and he ran on infrastructure. Now, those are all things that I and many other Americans have to deal with on a daily basis. I have to say this, but of course he was lying and never intended to do any of those things, but his message was nevertheless on point. Okay, so fast forward to today. Given that the policies passed into law in the United States do not actually represent public opinion, in fact, according to a Princeton University study, the preferences of the average American appear only to have a minuscule, near zero, statistically non-significant impact upon public policy. Given that fact, I feel like a lot of incumbents are majorly at risk if they do not get their act together. And once again, that is how it should be. Just last week, in Missouri's 1st congressional district, Cori Bush, the OG Justice Democrat who was featured in the Netflix documentary Knock Down the House, a real working class candidate, was able to unseat Lacy Clay, a member of the Congressional Black Caucus, and who with his father has held that seat for more than half a century because she focused on things that the community cared about, such as the recent defund the police movement, and successfully made the point that Clay no longer represented the district. Jamaal Bowman unseated Eliot Engel in New York in exactly the same way. He spoke to not only the racial injustices facing black and brown communities, something that the media oftentimes focuses on, but also the economic problems that people in his district are facing. It also didn't help that Engel didn't take him seriously and essentially admitted on a hot mic that he didn't care. Now, jumping to the Republican side a little bit, 5-time incumbent Scott Tipton lost his seat in Colorado's 3rd congressional district, which is a small rural district outside of Denver. He lost that seat to a pro-gun challenger, Lauren Boebert, who attacked him, saying that he had been utterly silent as the left-wing lunatics are taking a wrecking ball to our country. Okay, so whether or not you agree or disagree with that framing, there is a certain part of the country that feels like the crazy left socialists are just taking over, they're taking away guns, and they do not like it. My opinion on this is that if there is enough people in an area that doesn't feel heard by their representative, a challenger should be able to come in and knock off that incumbent. And boom, that's exactly what happened here. And to me, that is democracy at work. It's also really important to note that these wins are happening a lot at the local and congressional level. And I think that's due to the power of traditional media. Because despite, I think, this shifting public sentiment and changing times, the traditional media, the establishment media, remains very entrenched in their old ways of thinking. They have a lot of ties to money and power. And that plays a huge role in national politics, something such as the presidential primary. At that national level, there's just no way, or it's very, very difficult for a candidate to reach everyone, just not enough time and resources. So ultimately, for example, we saw Bernie, who I believe to be the stronger of the two Democratic candidates, lose to Joe Biden because Bernie couldn't interact with everyone. People's perception of him was more easily manipulated by the media. Essentially, I think the media was able to brainwash people into believing Biden to be the more electable candidate. But at the local level, the candidates are able to reach a wider proportion of the electorate, so they can overcome this media bias. Although I predict this will change in the future as the boomer population ages out, and alternative media, which I believe to be more representative of the people, become more and more prominent. With that being said, I'm really encouraged by these recent developments because it shows that democracy still works here in America. It actually gives me great hope that when and if a representative no longer represents the will of the people, they will be unseated by a challenger who focuses on policies and issues that the people in the district care about. On the flip side, though, I'm also curious to see how these newly elected representatives govern because, like we've seen with people like AOC, it's not so easy to be anti-establishment once you've become part of their club. So let's see how that all plays out. Thank you so much for watching. If you're still watching at this point, you gotta hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already done so. It really helps a small independent channel like mine. So I really, really appreciate it. I'll be back next week with more. My name is James Lee, and thank you for your time.